Eat human.
Les humains à leur meilleur.
C'est tu apogeo.
ピーク人間
Pitufka nie
Hello, beautiful people. Welcome back. This episode is a special one, and I won't do a whole intro. I'll just let you know there's 3 different interviews, starting with one of the original grass-fed, grass-finished ranchers in America who I partnered with to do Nose to Tail. He called in on the phone and the sound quality wasn't great, but his story and information are spot on. Really great stuff from a 76-year-old rancher who really knows health and is living proof of what happens when you eat meat in a healthy way. He's really into the omega-6 to omega-3 ratio and keeping the ratio near 1-to-1 like we would have ancestrally. He's been onto this about 20 years before anyone else. This is really awesome stuff. The next interview starts 19 minutes in and is with my South African business partner Gary I make the Nose to Tail biltong with. This is the traditionally made South African beef product that is kind of like jerky but a lot better. It is air dried for 7 days instead of dehydrated at high heat in a matter of hours like jerky. We also don't use any sugar or other preservatives or curing agents. We use all the good fat instead of trimming it off like other people do. We're developing a dried sausage version called Drovors with liver and heart. It will be the first of its kind in America, and maybe the world. The final interview, 39 minutes in, is with Tommy, who makes the regeneratively grown beef tallow body care products. He makes them all by hand and uses nothing but a few natural ingredients. He'll talk about the origins of beef tallow as soap throughout human history and why using animal fat on your animal body is so beneficial. Really great stuff here with all 3 interviews that you won't hear elsewhere. Without further ado, let's jump in. All right, we got Farmer Ted here, who I partnered with to do Nose to Tail. You've been in the meat game for a long time, done a lot of ranching in your life. You're kind of in Florida now, though, trying to retire a little bit, I guess.
Well, yeah, retire. I still work 7 days a week, I guess, but it's kind of aiming towards retirement, kind of like it's.
Well, that's good.
After 50 years of punching cattle, I'm trying to do something different.
Well, that's great. So how did you get into business and how did you get into the sort of grass-fed business? I mean, that wasn't very popular back when you started.
Well, it was in 1999. I was at a fencing event that I was helped sponsor, and one of the guys that was there, he was talking about his omega-3. You know, he was trying to raise his buffalo so they had more omega-3. And so when I got back to the office there, I called up Dick Diven, Dr. Dick Diven. He's a feedlot guy and a low-cost cow-calf operator teacher. And I had taken a course from him a couple of years before, and the guy's a guru and a mathematical genius and everything else on whatever. But anyway, I called him up and said, you know, what's this about omega-3? And then there was this was 1999. There was this long pause. And then he said, Ted, where have you been? Well, that was a wake-up call. So I decided to start studying all the research I could get my hands on about omega-3. And of course, Artemisia Smopoulos, I don't know how you pronounce her name, but started reading her reports right there on the spot, her research reports, and talking about the omega-3 and the omega-6 ratio and the importance that is to the immune system, health overall, in their research. And this was, I mean, you're talking about research that was approaching 20 years old in 1999.
Yeah.
You know, so now it's approaching 40 years old, and, you know, there's been thousands of research reports on the importance of omega-3 in your body, and it all has to do with the ratio, and 99.999% of the people have yet to catch on to what all that's about.
Yeah, well, just in my little meat world, guys like Dr. Paul or Kate Shanahan, Dr. Kate, and Tucker Goodrich, and there's just a few people that have caught on to this, but yeah, it's not common knowledge.
Right. Oh, no, yeah. It's talked about, kind of like talked about in passing, you know, and everybody knows, and I mean, they've always been saying that the grass-fed meats are higher in omega-3, you know, because our omega-3 comes from the green leaf. It's that way in the ocean, and it's that way on land. The plants, when the plants moved on land, that's when animals could move on land. And there's certain fatty acids, like the omega-6s and 3s, which are essential. That's because they've always been in our food. We couldn't get away from them. And the ratio was always approximately 1-to-1 omega-6 to omega-3 in terms of weight in our food. So that in our membranes of the cells of our body would end up composed of these essential fats in the same ratio of the foods that we ate. And there's this delicate balance, and there's quite a few minerals and even vitamins or whatever in your body that have to be within a critical balance range in order for your body to function. It's kind of like air-gas mixture in an engine.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't have the air-gas mixture right, the engine is going to be coughing and sputtering or whatever. And it's the same thing with bodies. If these nutrients, certain nutrients, are out of line, the body can't adjust them. The body self-adjusts. Like if you eat too much salt, the body's going to get rid of it. Your pH of your body is going to be the same. These are things your body regulates, your temperature and things. So when it comes to the essential nutrients have to come from your food, and your body isn't really good at regulating them.
Yeah. So most people are out of whack, 5-to-1 on the omega-6 side, 10-to-1, and I've heard 20-to-1. Do you know how messed up people are these days?
Oh, yeah. Generally speaking, the Army did a study here a while back, and we participated in that study providing chicken and beef and whatever. This was a National Institutes of Health sponsored study. And when they brought these troops in and tested them, I think they started off at 16-to-1.
Mm.
And they fed them. They had a highly regimented deal there with these troops. They're all paid, and they were all told and ordered and made to eat a certain diet. And they had I think it was 3 or 4 different diets, and one of them had a fish oil supplement in it. And so they had these diets. So this was a study whereby they could see how the fatty acid profile changed in a body over time. And then they figured in 10 weeks, they lowered the ones that were on the balance, the appropriate balanced diet. They lowered them. It took them 10 weeks to lower them from about the 15, 16-to-1 down to less than 4-to-1.
Mm.
And 4-to-1 is the break point. This is where, when your ratio starts going up above 4-to-1, your body starts misfiring, and chronic diseases start cropping up, anywhere from could be acne to asthma, diabetes, heart disease, cancers, multiple sclerosis, arthritis. The list is endless. You name every chronic disease out there, and there's an association with a body failure. And as the ratio gets closer to 1-to-1, there's a great improvement in these chronic diseases. And many of these chronic diseases, when people do have them, if they can lower the ratios, they'll suppress those diseases to 0. Mm-hmm. In other words, they won't have the disease. Stopping asthma, diabetes 2, and stopping arthritic. You can't ever cure the arthritic problem that was caused by arthritis, but you could stop it cold and it won't progress. People have done this, and multiple sclerosis. People have been confined to wheelchairs and are riding bicycles in 8 months.
Yeah. Well, I met one of those people, actually. I met her at a conference, and she was in a wheelchair. She had all of the pictures, and she was running around in circles with us. It was great.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So the seed oils are the worst things. These are the highest offenders. All the processed foods are stuffed with the seed oils with a super high omega-6. But then once you get rid of those, you got to go get your meat correct, right? And get the grass-fed meat, or getting into the chicken and the pork. Tell us about the normal ratios that chicken and pork has, and then what we're doing at Nose to Tail and your special methods.
Yeah, well, they can give it, generally speaking, like you go down there to, Whole Foods, let's say, because we want to do a health store. See, I could say Walmart because the numbers would be the same. Mm-hmm. But there at Whole Foods, you can buy one of their fancy chickens. They could pay free range and whatever. And the skinless breasts will have a ratio of 18-to-1, omega-6 to 3, or thereabouts. It could be 16-to-1 or it could be 20-to-1, but on the average, about 18-to-1. And with a chicken that's fed a diet, and you're talking about lots of supplements being involved in doing this. It's not a cheap diet. Mm-hmm. The ratios can be less than 1.5-to-1. So you're talking about way inside the 4-to-1 mark. Yeah. If Americans had ratios of 1.5-to-1, which happens to be my ratio, by the way, their heart health would be over the top. They wouldn't have things like arthritis and asthma, diabetes, and all these other issues. I mean, it just stopped cold. And of course, the medical community, which 85% of the business comes from chronic diseases, would be a little appalled by that. They'd all be sitting around twiddling their thumbs, unless somebody got in a car accident or, caught the COVID bug or something.
Yeah. Well, so you're 76, you're still going strong.
Oh, yeah. I don't have the same athletic abilities that I had 30 years ago, but my brain still thinks that I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And so specific with the feed, so yeah, no one else is really doing this. We even got it tested, the omega-6, omega-3 ratio of our pork and chicken a while back. But no one else is really doing this, and it takes a special diet to get the pork and chicken.
I mean, right, the pork, chicken, and turkey. As I said, the green leaf is the source of the balance. And this is why grass-fed cattle, their ratios will be around 1-to-1. That's just the way it is. You have them out there grazing or whatever, and their ratio, when they come in, you test them, whatever, they're going to be right around 1-to-1. Sometimes it could be 0.8-to-1. Sometimes it could be 1.5-to-1. It'll be kind of vary around just depending on their seeds and grass and whatever. But the ratios will be lower by, you put them in a feedlot, you feed them grain. Well, all these feeds, grain, have ratios of like 12-to-1, 15-to-1, 20-to-1, 30-to-1. And this is why, the corn-fed pork, they're like 20-to-1.
Yeah.
25-to-1. And, so this is why the chickens are 18-to-1. So when these animals are out there in their wild environment, they're going to eat a lot of grass or bugs that eat grass, and therefore their ratios are going to be less than 4-to-1. Like when you shoot a duck and test a duck, it's probably going to be like 2-to-1 or something. Mm-hmm. And, the corn-fed duck will be 18-to-1, 20-to-1, and whatever. So it's in what you eat. Now, so this is why I say when you start getting away from green leafy vegetables and even zucchini, like a zucchini plant with a squash, that's the ratios on it are real low. They're down there close to like 1.5-to-1 and whatever. And you get into spinach, it's like 0.6-to-1. And see, all these green leafy plant things that we can eat in our salads, they got really good ratios. But then you start moving off into some of the other things people like to eat. The ratios really get pretty high, 6-to-1, 8-to-1. And all the sources of omega-3 except for the wild-caught seafood. And wild-caught seafood is one of your best meats to eat because those ratios are like 2-to-1. And they're loaded with omega-3. But most meats, the omega-6s and 3s that are in them, they're small quantities. And so here you are, you're eating lots of food that has small quantities of omega-6 and omega-3. Then you eat over here a handful of almonds, which absolutely gross out omega-6 loads. The ratio immediately becomes 10-to-1.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why people got to be very careful in trying to avoid eating things which are, food selections which are high omega-6, because the sources of omega-3 to offset that, generally speaking, are real light.
Exactly. Well, yes, that's right, because people need to, be eating some wild-caught seafood and other types of seafood and just avoiding the super high omega-6. Even, like the nut butter. So a lot of people in the keto community, they're eating these nut butters, almond butter, but it's actually super high in omega-6.
Oh, it blew their mind. They tested it.
Yeah. So, most pork and chicken, people kind of know it's not as healthy, but this is one of those reasons why it kind of makes sense why. It just doesn't have all the nutrients that beef has in general. But also it's just most of it, 90-something%, is just fed the wrong way, right? It's all the confined feeding operations for pork and chicken when, most cows are at least spend a good amount of their life out on grass.
Right. Well, see, here's where the problem comes in. Like if you eat a grain-fed steer, your fatty acid balance is going to be somewhere around 15-to-1, let's say. So you're right off the bat, your fatty acid balance is going to be skewing you away from where you're supposed to be. Even though the quantities are not high, if you ate nothing but that, you'd end up with a 15-to-1 ratio. The other stuff is that the grain-fed cattle, they are nutrient diverse. Otherwise, the animal wouldn't be alive. But they're in certain areas nutrient light, like in CLA, or beta-carotenes and things like this. And they're nutrient light compared to one that's eating the green leafy plant. It's like if you eat lots of kale, you are getting a nutrient-dense and nutrient-diverse green leafy plant. But if you eat iceberg lettuce, you're getting a nutrient-diverse but nutrient-light plant.
Mm-hmm.
And iceberg lettuce has a real nice ratio. Its ratio is probably like 0.6 to 1 or something. So the ratio on the fatty acid in iceberg lettuce is fine, but it's like drinking water compared to kale, whereby you're actually getting something, in terms of density of nutrients.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why grain-fed meats, they are more in the iceberg lettuce concept. So you have to take your vitamin pills, which I don't like to take. I don't take supplements.
Yeah, you don't need supplements.
Other than a tablespoon of fish oil.
Well, yeah. So
that's it.
Or I get some whole cod livers in the oil and eat those. Or just if you're eating enough seafood, then yeah, you won't even need the supplements.
Right.
But not everyone's.
In our society, it's so difficult. I mean, you go someplace, and somebody wants to serve you something. You can't sit there and say no to everything. So you kind of go tiptoe through their minefield. But, you're going to end up getting a bunch of omega-6s. So I try to prepare for that.
But yeah, balance it out with some omega-3s.
And so I take I'll take a fish oil supplement just so I can, have a social life, But just still, when I go out to eat, it's always, salads and fish.
Mm.
And in Florida, it's really easy to find a restaurant that's going to sell you a salad and fish. So I just avoid all the rest, everything else. I'd rather have beef myself, but they have, their corn-fed beef.
Yeah, you can eat your own beef at home.
Right. Unlimited supply.
Yeah. This is great. I'm glad you got into this so early in life and started figuring this stuff out and are living the lifestyle, proving it out, doing well. And I guess, any closing words other than just, if you're going to eat chicken and pork, our nose to tail version is really light years ahead of the normal stuff.
Oh, yeah. Like when I started doing this, I was in my late 40s, and I was starting to hit the wall. Even though I'm working on the ranch there 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and doing all this and that and the other thing. And every rancher I knew, or virtually every one of them, when they were overweight and heavy and all this and that. But I was overweight. I weighed 200 pounds. And I was getting aches and pains, and heart flutters, and this and that. And I was thinking, goodness gracious, I'm going to have to start going to the doctors and do medical checkups and this type of thing. I may have to, take in prescriptions and whatever, just like everybody else I know.
Mm-hmm.
Because, a lot of people start hitting the wall around 40, in their 40s. But I stumbled on this in 1999, and so I said, okay, I'm going to, start eating this. It's real easy. I'll go out and kill one of my cows, or not cows, steers or whatever. And because I had a 100% grass-based operation, no grain, cubes, no licks, no nothing, just a straight-on pasture operation. And started eating that way and started cutting off this and cutting off that, and my weight just plunged. Like right now, I would weigh about 152 or 3 pounds or so, and I've been that way for years now. And the aches and pains, I felt like I must be getting arthritis or whatever, because my mother had it really bad, and she had Alzheimer's, and she had heart problems. My dad had heart problems. All these, So now I'm at 76, and the only thing I go to a doctor for is every couple of years I go in for a flight physical. And as long as your heart's beating, they let you go.
Uh-huh.
And so no drugs, no nothing. I don't go to doctors for that to tell them anything. I just continue to let food be my medicine, and that's what I do.
Wow. I love it. We have to go. Nosetotale.org. Get all the meats. The primal, man, we need to talk about primal so we don't run out. We keep running out of the primal ground beef. Everyone loves it with the organs mixed in, the liver, heart, kidney, and spleen. Oh, you bet. That's good stuff. I know.
That's what you call nutrient dense and nutrient diverse. A big time.
This has got it all covered. All right. Well, thanks so much.
Okay, Brian.
All right. Hey, Gary, how you doing over there?
Doing well, yeah, thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, I wanted to check in and say hi and get a little bit of your background and your process and the South African tradition of biltong.
Yes, well, as you can hear from my accent, I'm very much a South African living in America. I've tasked myself to bring in the magic of biltong to the American public. Our history as a family goes back multiple generations in the meat processing business, in the meat trade, butcheries, and so on and so on. So we have a rich legacy going back to our forefathers in England. We settled in South Africa in the 1820s, and we can trace back our roots into the butchery business back to Kent in England. So it's a long story, but I personally, biltong processing plant in South Africa, we're reputed to be the biggest processors of the product in South Africa. Just to give some context, is jerky is not commercially sold at all in South Africa. So
Mm.
people don't know jerky. They don't have any interest in jerky at all, simply because they believe that the biltong snack is way superior. So that's a little bit of the background. I've often asked like how I ended up here and why America, and I can't give a straight answer, but we tied up with a retailer on a lot of exclusivity deals in South Africa, and we decided that if we wanted to expand our business, we had to globalize. So we were looking more at UK and Western Europe, which are much more traditional trading partners for us. But a good friend of mine suggested I try America, came to have a look here, found a factory, sort of started the wrong way around, bought a factory, then tried to find a market, and the rest is history. We've been growing and growing ever since.
Well, it's great. I'm glad I got connected with you. I met a guy at a conference that connected us, and we've been developing this business for months now. Yeah, I just want to know more about the processing because it's so different from jerky. Jerky is this high heat, fast process, and biltong is this natural, slow process and low heat. And you were telling me how it works, how it was developed in South Africa with the certain weather in mind, and it was just how you grew up, right?
I think if you understand like the actual DNA of biltong and how it's made, it really brings across the difference between biltong and jerky. The way biltong was started was basically by the Dutch settlers that came to Southern Africa in 1652, and they got into ox wagons and went up into the high ground. And what they found was that when they killed an animal, they had nowhere to preserve it. So they'd learned from coming across the ship on ships where there was no refrigeration that you could hold meat in brine and then wash it off and then cook it and it would be fine. So they started experimenting around with salt and vinegar and some pepper. And they sort of hung the stuff outside and it dried. So they just killed a deer, cut the meat up, hung it outside and it dried. And the reason it dried is that the hinterland in southern Africa is quite high above sea level. In winter, extremely dry. I say never rains, but seldom rains in the winter, so humidity is very low. You get a gentle day-night breeze from coast to inland and inland to coast, which is just a natural low high pressure. So you have a gentle breeze, and the temperatures are pretty cool. So they just hung the stuff outside and it dried. And that's really how biltong is made. It's just simply an air dried product versus jerky, where the product is effectively cooked. And I think the product's probably been a bit hijacked because you have to have this cook step in for lethality and all kinds of other things. So, but jerky is generally a highly sugared product. Biltong doesn't need any sugar. And this whole air dry process, the magic about it is that basically all you're doing is you're taking water out of the product and drying it out. You're not taking any of the goodness out. Whereas as
The
soon as you
nutrients,
cook
yeah.
something, you lose a lot of nutrients out of it. So if you just have a look at the nutri table on biltong versus jerky, I mean, biltong is generally almost double that of jerky. So, and I think the main reason is that we're just taking out the moisture, but we're not taking out the goodness within the product.
Yeah, the protein, you keep more of the protein.
That's correct. The protein, yeah, natural nutrients like phosphate remains high, occurs naturally in meat. So there are lots of things that are natural that just stay in the meat and that are generally good for you. I think what's interesting to your group is that the traditional product in South Africa, the way that I sort of learned to know the product is that the biltong was more an occasional eat when I was a kid and growing up, and it's now become commercialized as a sliced product that's lying in retail and picked up as a packet. But when I was a kid, the places you used to get it was on farms. And I used to go to my Uncle Bill's farm in the winter holidays, which was the cool, and he was in the highland, and they used to hunt some springbok, which is the national emblem of South Africa. And used to hunt a couple of springbok, cut them up, put strips into salt, vinegar, and pepper, and then hang them up on the veranda on little wire hooks on a wire string. And what we used to do is we would play around and we'll come along and go and have a look and say, well, is a piece dry enough to eat? When it was just about dry enough to eat, we used to go and put it in our mouths and tear the strips off and eat the stuff. And that's sort of where I fell in love with the product. Later, as I went on, I was in the meat business and the meat processing and slaughterhouse and this type of stuff. And I came across this company, Stormberg, which is now our company. And they were selling to this high-end retailer called Woolworths with the packed goods. And basically, Stormberg was started by a bunch of farmers. I think about 23 farmers farming with certified organic farms up in the foothills of the Drakensberg, which is the highest mountains in South Africa. And it's like a cool, dry place, but it's really, really clean because it's really cold in the winter and the conditions are very clean. And they farmed these organic cattle, and they wanted to add some value to these cattle. So they started with this biltong, and they did by mail order, which sounds like so archaic now. And then they started a bit with retail. But anyway, I ended up being their supplier, and they ended up owing me a lot of money. And the farmers eventually said, Gary, please, won't you just take over the whole business? And I took over the business because I had some experience in the meat processing. It wasn't really that difficult to get to this, but I spent like an inordinate amount of time trying to understand like the real, true drying process, because to me that was the whole magic. Getting consistency in the spicing, and that also an important part. But to me, to simulate those natural conditions that were on my uncle's farm, that was really what it's all about. So I spent a lot of time and effort working on that and getting that like dialed in. And everyone said to me, you're crazy to spend this type of money on drying equipment and that. But I think right now I'm probably the world's leading expert on this drying technology and how to do it properly. And most guys that go into this trade always look at that capex on that item and they say, no, that's too much. We can do it better this way and that way. But if you don't get that part right, you're not in the game. Then to take a thing a bit further, if I went back as a kid, we used to eat on the farms and then used to get some, and it was more venison or game meat. And then it became beef. And then you used to go and buy the stuff at a butcher. So you'd walk into a butchery, and you still do in South Africa, and there's a whole string right across, or 2 or 3 strings of biltong lying across. And people walking in, they go and pick the piece according to what they want. Some want a little less fat, but most people in South Africa want this huge strip of yellow fat from an old Jersey cow. And they say that is the best biltong because that just gives the best flavor. And then the guy you'll either cut it with your pocket knife, or you'll have a little slicer there. Or most people in South Africa have like a little hand chopper, and they take the whole piece and they chop it up as they need it. And that's really where the real magic of the product is. Unfortunately, in the States, what's happened is that the first thing the retailers tell you is you must give us 2 years shelf life and all that type of stuff. This is not a 2-year shelf life product. This product is really magic within a reasonably short period of time. I'm saying 3 months or 6 months, but certainly after 6 months, it does start dissipating in flavor. Although we have learned how to hold it and preserve it and put it into great packaging and so on and so on, keep the oxygen out and preserve it over life. But at the end of the day, the real magic is in the eat. And the eat is in the flavor, and that natural meaty flavor. And that natural meaty flavor with fat, that's really where the true magic lies in this product, right?
Yeah, well, that's why it's so great working with you, because you understand that, for one, the natural air drying methods. And I know not everyone does that. I mean, there's a few biltong makers in the US. It hasn't taken off at all. But from what I know, they don't do it correctly. And I've heard some things from South Africans that have tried it and said that it's not the same. And so partly that's because you've invested so much time and money into doing the actual technology of this to simulate the natural air drying. And also the fact that we're doing more fat. My crowd listening knows how healthy the fat is. And that yellow fat, that's the grass-fed fat. That's the good stuff. That's where the nutrition is, the fat-soluble vitamins. So luckily, my crowd will understand that this is a lot better. If I just throw this up on Amazon, people might not want it because they're like, oh, why is this so high fat? I want the leaner stuff. So this is, from what I haven't seen any other high-fat version available. So yeah, I'm glad we're doing it this way. And then also what you brought up is the shelf life. And if you have more fat, that might make the shelf life go down. But another reason why I'm working with you, and also why my products are shipped out of North Carolina, the skincare and the seasonings and the hats, are because we do them in small batches and then you send them out right away.
Yeah, I think your model is the right model. You need to do it just in time and get the magic in the bag to the customer. Let the customer experience the product, and let's repeat that experience to the customer that, wow, this is just like, so we call it moreish because when you eat it, you just want to eat more and more and more and more. It's that. And I think the other twist for us as a business, we've obviously had to learn how to keep that wow in the product longer. And my mission 2020, besides trying to beat COVID, has been to try and keep the wow in the product over life. That I've learned a lot about and been studying a lot and got a lot of experts to help me how to do that. So I think we've achieved that to a certain extent, but definitely that just in time, don't keep months and months of stock. Eat the stuff when you get it. I mean, once you open that pack and there's 4 ounces in your pack, you're probably going to eat it in a couple of days in any case, while it's still great. So I think you're onto something really special, Brian. I think you're like the first guy that I've come across that's not totally preoccupied with insanely long shelf lives and really likes the fat aspect in the product, which gives all that flavor and really creates a magic in the product.
Well, yeah, this is a perfect little partnership we got. And also, we're trying to do some new products. So we didn't even talk about Drovors for one thing. Luckily, I went to South Africa and tried biltong. That's why I was open to this product. And I'm so glad that I did that. But Drovors is a lesser known product. So why don't you explain that real quick?
The Drovors is probably better known or akin to a stick in the US, which is basically ground meat inside a sausage casing. And with ours, it's unlike a jerky stick, which is effectively a cook stick. I see there's a lot of like sugar-free cook sticks on the market. I've tried a couple. I don't think they're that great, but this one has got all the same aspects of the biltong. It's basically meat with fat. It's normally about 70% meat, 30% fat. And we have very similar spices. I mean, we do normally add in like traditional stuff like nutmeg and clove just to give it a more hearty taste. And then your roasted coriander, lemony type taste, that's like really iconic in the product, in the authentic version of it. And it's basically a ground product. But when you eat it, basically the stick snaps, but the chew is soft. So it's a really soft, gentle, but it's a totally meaty experience. So when you eat it, it tastes like meat. It doesn't taste like smoke or sugar or some flavor that you can pick up in a jerky stick. It tastes like real meat. And I've got a lot of people that prefer that to the biltong again because they find it soft to eat and more convenient to eat. And you can take a whole stick at a time and eat it, So it's a magic product. I think you're going to see it commercialized very quickly in the US. I think the problem has been a couple of companies have tried to do the product here or do the product, but it's a very tricky product to dry. So again, your investment in technology and process is like really critical to get consistency with this product. So I think we'll be the leaders in the product until somebody else figures it out. It's got more money than us to commercialize it in the US. But it's a really magic product and it's really worth trying because most Americans I give it to are just like so surprised. They say, it's totally not what I was expecting, but it's so nice and soft and it's so nice to eat.
Yeah, so people will compare it. Yeah, is it like a Slim Jim? And basically, what you just said, it's nothing like a Slim Jim. Slim Jims are gross, and even some other good brands might have a better version of a Slim Jim with no sugar. But we're talking about a different ball game here.
It's a totally different eat.
Yeah,
it's a totally different experience. It's just like taking a jerky and eating a biltong. This is not the same experience. They categorize in the meat snack category, but they're totally different products because they're made totally differently. And they employ totally different ingredients and technology in their preparation. The Drovos, the biltong, the strip, or whatever we make, a chip, or whatever we make, it's just a totally air-dried product. It's not an artificially chased and heated product. The biltong takes, in our process, 7 days to dry. Some of our competitors say it takes them 14 days to dry. So it's not like a fast product. It's not a high rush product. It's a product that's just naturally cured and just moves at its own pace. You can't force it, because as soon as you force it, you then create a crusting on the outside, which we call case hardening, and it stays raw on the inside. So that's no good. So if you want to make the product, you can't make it go faster. You can only make it go as fast as what evaporation will take place off the surface of that product. That's as fast as you can go.
Yeah, well, we're no rush here.
Yeah.
Everything I'm trying to do is this high quality, small batch, that type of thing, and nose to tail. So the new thing we're doing is adding liver and heart to the Jovors. I don't think anyone's done that before. Certainly not in the US. But the samples that I got, we've been working on this for months, were so good. I'm getting used to the livery taste. Not everyone is, but I think this is the best way to eat liver because it's the most handy and natural form of it. It's air dried. It's still, all the nutrients are still intact. You're not losing the nutrients through high heat, and it tastes good. It had the snap on the outside, but it's soft on the inside.
Look, I must admit, I've done a little bit of that stuff. And then when you said you wanted like a highly nutritious product, I immediately thought of, well, if a lion kills a deer, what does it do first? It rips open the gut and it goes for the liver and the heart, because that is the most nutritious part of the whole animal. So it first eats that. So that must be the most nutritious thing. So I think we were probably a bit lucky by getting the product quite close to right from the start. But it's certainly something novel. It's not for everybody, but it makes perfect sense if you're looking for high nutrition. I mean, the taste of liver is certainly not offensive. So, and with a bit of mild spices, and that, I think you've got quite a wow product there.
Well, I loved it. Yeah, it's just the traditional way. It's just like you said, it's a vinegar, it's a salt and pepper, and some coriander, and right. I mean, maybe there's a few other things, but
no, that's about it. I mean, as I say, we can put nutmeg and clove in if you prefer that, and we can put a spicy chili or something, to make it. But I mean, this stuff's not complicated. It's just a matter of you just got to get the mixture right, and then you've got to get the drying process right. And it's easy to do like in small batch, but when you do it commercially and you run thousands of pounds a day, then you've got to have a fairly shrewd idea what you're doing, and have the right equipment.
Yeah, it's like anything, like fermenting product or doing wine or doing a good cigar or doing good whiskey. It's all about these fine details. And that's what you figured out. And I know how good the product is. So hopefully this will take America by storm. Not known yet, but we're going to get it out there.
It's one step at a time. I just feel there's a slow groundswell starting. As I say, there's products on the market that's really pretty disappointing, to be quite honest, and not to the authentic product. I think we've got to work to differentiate ourselves away from that product and say, this is like the real deal, this is the real stuff, and let the consumer try. If they have tried and were disappointed, maybe just give it another try, because I'm pretty damn sure that your products with the fat in and whatever is going to really excite your customer.
Yeah, I'm waiting for mine. I've had the sample batches and all that, but I should be getting my final batches with our great packaging. And that was a whole process too, just getting the really nice professional packaging done. And oh my gosh, all these labeling laws and all that. It's such a process, but we're here. We made it. Thanks so much for kind of explaining the background of this. And I hope everyone can tell you're the real deal. You're really into this. This is kind of your life. So
yeah, I eat, live, and sleep this stuff. And quite honestly, I could be retired and sitting on the beach in South Africa, but I just taken this on and want to share the passion with some other people and have some fun doing it.
Well, I love it. Thanks so much, Gary.
Good stuff. Thanks, Brian. Good luck with your marketing, and I'm sure your customers will be delighted.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. All right, we're here with Tommy, the beef tallow handmade body care expert himself. How are you doing?
I'm great, Brian. Thanks so much for having me today, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, yeah, I appreciate our partnership. You sent me some samples a year ago, and they're really great, but I didn't know what to do. It was like, okay, well, this is great, but what do I do? And then I finally had this idea to make nose to tail a bigger thing, right? And we added on these different products, and I'm in love with this one. People are in love with it. They're buying it off the shelves already. We already sold out. But I want to hear your backstory. How did you get into it? And then we'll go on to why beef tallow soap and what are the benefits. But how did you get into it?
Yeah. So, when I first started about 6 years ago, it was, and I really wanted to get all the chemicals out of my life. And I have two little daughters, and they're 7 and 9 now, and they were much smaller at the time. And I'd been hearing so much about everything that they put into products, whether it's skincare or household cleaners, all those things. And I was really trying to rid all those chemicals out of our lives. And my sticking point at the time was finding skincare products that actually worked and did what they were supposed to do and were of natural ingredients. So I had been listening to a podcast one day, and a gentleman was referring to a traditional tallow balm recipe. And I had made frequent trips at the time to a local butcher to get some grass-fed beef. And I said, let me try to pick up some fat from him next time and see if I could render it myself and try to make this recipe that I just learned about. And sure enough, we did that. And we made way more than we thought we would. We had no idea how much this recipe would make at the time. And we all absolutely loved it.
And I had enough to give to some friends and family. They all said the exact same thing. They were like, wow, this is some of the best stuff that we've ever used. And everybody was a little confused because these days everything is vegan skincare and that's all they're hearing. But I tried to explain that
this is what they would have been using for thousands of years, only up until not that recent, and everything from soap to any other types of products. So we'd been making it for ourselves, like I said, and I had a friend of mine who was a soap maker, and we got into discussing one time about the fats that she was using. And I said, have you ever tried tallow? She said, no, but I've heard that was what they originally would have used as well. So she helped me out a little bit, and I started making soaps as well, and moved on to even making some lip balms. And everything we made with this grass-fed tallow that we were getting was all just some of the best products that we've ever used. And sure enough, like you had mentioned in the beginning there, I sent some products to you after a little while because I knew that your audience would appreciate stuff like this. And I was just really excited when you hit me back up and you were ready to make some of your own. Who knew at the time that that's the direction we would go? But I'm really excited to be here where we are at the moment. So.
Absolutely. Well, it's such a great product. I didn't really think about it. I just was sort of it wasn't on my radar yet. And then now that I'm using it every day and we're doing the soap and the skincare and now we're doing deodorant that I've been testing and hair product. I use a hair product all the time. Well, I use everything. It's all I use anymore. But I'm so glad we figured it all out. Tell me more about the history. I've gotten a little bit into the history of beef tallow and soap and how it all started.
Yeah, so I've definitely done some digging into the history of soap making, and it goes back about 5,000 years. So it's difficult to pinpoint. Obviously, we have no clue exactly what happened. And there's some myths and things that are thought to be not only myths, but from a scientific perspective, they make a lot of sense. So they would have been washing pots. In some cases, some of these myths, they were talking about some of the animal sacrifices they were doing back then. Washing these away, more likely it was probably from the cooking that they were doing because from the sacrifice perspective, they wouldn't necessarily have the suet and the tallow in the process of that. But anyway, so the ash from the fire would have mixed with the fat. In ash, it's an alkali substance. When it mixes with fat and water, it's a process called saponification, which is kind of just a fancy way of saying it makes soap, right? So they would have started recognizing, hey, this stuff, as we're washing our pots or whatever else they were washing their clothes in the streams, they would have said, hey, this is better when this stuff's present than when it's not, And as far as that goes, actually, for a long time, they were mostly using soaps to wash their clothing and other things like that. It wasn't as much for body care until a good amount later. So there's also some really neat discoveries they made. There's some ancient Babylonian tablets that go back 4,000 years that apparently is the first recipe of soap, which I would just absolutely love to get my hands on to try to see if I could recreate that. And then, it goes through the Middle Ages. I just heard something recently talking about how we always hear the people from the Middle Ages must have been really dirty. But no, apparently they did bathe, maybe just not quite as often as we do these days. And they did actually use soap. There's some really cool ancient texts that have been found that these alchemists would use, and they have these old ancient soap recipes in them. So it goes way back. The point in history where I guess we're most concerned with is really World War I. In Germany, especially, there was a scientist who, because these animal fats were becoming difficult to find and they needed them for other reasons, started discovering or figuring out some chemical processes that you could use to make soap, and eventually coming up with the process of what's called a detergent. So technically, if you hear that word detergent, you're hearing the difference between a soap, which is made in a traditional sense, which is mixing lye or any kind of alkaline substance with a fat. Now we're talking about enzymes and other things like that get involved when we're talking about detergents. And in general, it's always a chemical process. So that's usually cheaper process, right? Once they figure that out, they use chemicals just like all the things that we know. And not only cheaper, but we know the harms that does to our lives at this point. And you can kind of say that's the turning point where things went south, or so to say. But if you do see any kind of skincare products, soaps or anything that are labeled something like a body bar or a body wash, so to say, they're not allowed to label it soap if it's not made in a traditional soaping method. Those kind of words will give that away, that there's already going to be something in there that you probably don't want to put on your skin. So.
Well, what else should we look out for on these labels? I mean, our product is just a few things, right? It's just beef tallow and some essential oils and maybe some olive oil.
100%. Yeah. So big concerns these days are things like phthalates and parabens. With a soap, as opposed to our other products that we're making, the skin food and the lip balms, is it as big of a concern? It's something we don't want to use, but those products do wash away.
Yeah, soap does wash away, but not that skin food is something you leave in that actually goes into your skin.
Correct. Exactly. That's what I was getting at. So any kind of leave-on product, they're called, whether it's a lip balm or our skin food, any kind of moisturizing thing, you definitely want to be very careful with those, because those things are leaking directly into your body. They're going your bloodstream directly under your skin, if you want to think of it that way. And these things are leaching directly in your body. Whereas soap, it does wash away, but at the same time, it can be harsh on your skin. It can open up your skin to be more susceptible to some of those things. And just in general, I personally really like to keep any of that stuff out of my life, and the lives of my daughters. So.
Absolutely. So why is it good to have these saturated fats onto our skin?
Yeah, absolutely. So as far as the skin food goes that we use, the reason why it works so well, and I just hear it time and time again from everyone who's ever used it, this stuff, it makes my skin feel differently than using a traditional lotion. And the reason that is mainly is because a lotion is generally going to go on top of your skin, right? It's going to add water. Our products have no water in them, by the way. The skin foods or the lip balms, water is used in the process of soap making, but it's essentially not in the soap anymore. But those things kind of coat your skin, if you want to think about it that way. But to answer your question, as far as the saturated fats, the saturated fat content of beef tallow is nearly the same as the saturated fat content of human skin is. It's around 50%. For both of these things. So they match up, and it actually is going to go into your skin and absorb and feed it, hence the name skin food, everything that it's missing, whether that's vitamins, minerals, different things that come in. And it's going to carry with it along as it goes in the other things that we use, right? Our essential oils that we're putting in there, and any other oils that we use, obviously very minimum as far as that goes.
So what's the difference between natural fragrances and essential oils?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there's not a whole lot of regulation on the word natural fragrance. Are they better than artificial fragrances? I would think so. But again, there's not a whole lot of regulation there. So it's still a synthetic process, right? As opposed to an essential oil, which is a distilled product directly from the botanicals that they're making. So whether that's, tea tree oil or bergamot we use, we're using all sorts of different citrus oils, grapefruit. A lot of times that's made from the peels of the citrus. And when the process of making an essential oil really not only purifies, but also concentrates these properties that we're looking for from a lot of these plants.
Yeah, it's basically goes from a negative to a positive. I looked up some of these websites that talk about natural fragrances, and there's hundreds or thousands of different things that can be labeled as natural. And like you said, it's sort of an unregulated thing. But the essential oils are just natural, and they're just coming from nature. And a lot of people talk about the healing properties it has. And I mean, I don't really get into all that. I'm sure it can't be bad, but I'm not a hippy dippy guy that knows all the difference between the bergamot and the tea tree and this and that. I just know it smells good. But maybe there's other properties. Some of those.
There certainly are. And, it's certainly been a learning process for me as well along the way as far as which things do what. But like I mentioned, it does tend to concentrate because you said it couldn't be bad. Now, it could be bad in too large of a quantity, so to say, because it is so concentrated. But we don't get anywhere close to those kind of numbers, But I wouldn't recommend taking a bottle of rosemary oil, so to say, and drinking the whole thing. That's not going to have a good outcome. You're not going to get the good. But in that case, a couple drops of that rosemary oil could work wonders for you. So, and yes, there's far too many. I don't think we want to bore listeners at the moment with all the benefits of different things. We're using a number of different things at the moment, but there are many, from cleansing properties, skin healing properties. There's things that, vitalize the skin, or even been known, of course, it's more what people report, not in a lot of scientific things, but to affect your mood, even when it's used on the skin. A lot of people report those kind of activities from essential oils.
Well, yeah, I've heard that kind of stuff. Oh, this is like calming, or this is this or that. And hey, I got to stick to the science, but I'd say people do their own research, and when you find value in them, and that's great. Or at worst, it smells really great.
Exactly. I hear it a lot on Peak Human, and it's very true. Everybody's different, right? So what could be good for one person is really bad for someone else. So, through experimenting, and you'll likely know it at this point if you're old enough to probably be listening to this podcast, then you'll probably know if you react terribly to, say, grapefruit oil might be, it's a somewhat common one for some people. You'd probably know that at this point. But if not, and you're using something, right, we do a little bit of science and we figure out, hey, I'm using this product and it has this oil in it. In general, though, the amounts that we use in the skin food or any of our soaps or anything, I almost have never had anybody say anything, any kind of reactions, other than those who question in advance, hey, I have a severe grapefruit allergy. Can I use this? And even so, by the way, an internal allergy that you get by eating the food doesn't always translate to the essential oil being on your skin, by the way. But obviously, be careful if you do have that extreme of an allergy.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for me, all I've gotten is compliments. I use the hair product that we haven't even come out yet, which is amazing. It's all I use in my hair, and it smells so good.
Yeah, you and me both, actually. I've been using it every time I go out as well. So we're the only two with it in the world right now. We got to get that out there to everybody soon, right?
Can't wait to get it out. And then the deodorant product is something we're working on too. And we've been testing for months and months and months. And we're doing all kinds of research, looking at other natural deodorants and seeing what they use. And it's not easy, and we're testing it because we don't want to use aluminum, obviously, but that aluminum is an antiperspirant. Right? That seems to be just the main antiperspirant, but we don't necessarily want an antiperspirant. We want something that just stops odor. And that seems to be baking soda and some arrowroot maybe, and some of these other things we're testing out. But baking soda sometimes irritates people's skin, right? So we're trying to find that balance. And so far, a really good product is just the beef tallow. I think would you use beeswax?
We do use a little beeswax just to give it a little bit of a firmer texture, absolutely. And then, I think the one that your favorite so far just had the baking soda and the arrowroot, and then a little essential oils to make it sound good. So just those, 5 or 6 simple ingredients, which it's been great. It's been a really fun process. I'm glad you brought that up. Experimenting, sending stuff back and forth. And that is the problem, right? I'm sure a lot of people out there have tried to use some natural deodorants and they just don't do anything. So they end up reverting back. And that area, especially your underarm, that's a very sensitive area. There's glands there. And if you're applying these things directly to your underarms, they're basically going right into your body. And you really need to be careful there. So there's a very fine balance, as you and I have discovered over the past couple of months of experimenting with something that works and something that doesn't have these ingredients that we don't want to use in it. But I've enjoyed it, and getting your feedback, and we both test it, and I think we're getting really, really close. We're going to have this next batch is going to be it. So.
Yeah. A lot of deodorants don't work for me. These natural deodorants don't really work. But this one, I'm telling you, with the arrowroot and the baking soda in the right proportion, not too much baking soda, because it'll irritate my skin at least. And it lasts 24 hours. And I've never had that before.
You seem to be a tough subject here with the deodorant. I've been...
I'm a primal guy, I can work with sweat. But it's great. And I love it too. I talked about it with Mary Ruddick. Everyone loves Mary Ruddick. I did 2 episodes with her on Peak Human, and she talked about skin food. She even said the term skin food before she knew I was doing the product or that it was called skin food. She was singing its praises of using beef tallow.
Yeah, I had heard that episode and I got really excited because I believe that was the first time you kind of hinted out the products coming out. So, being a longtime listener and now working with you, that was exciting. Those couple episodes were great too. She is amazing.
She really is. Well, yeah, so let's recap here. We got all the products on nosetotale.org. You do it from local regenerative farms too. We don't have the same farm as Nose to Tail in Texas, but you use your local regenerative farms for this tallow.
I do. So I'm right outside of Philadelphia, and just beyond there is Lancaster, where there is a lot of Amish farmers. There's a lot of land out there, a lot of people raising, and I have a couple of relationships with a few farmers that I found through the Weston Price organization, actually, and on their list. And I started reaching out, and so I go out and I pick up the suet and the trim fat. I've kind of come up with my own ratio of fats that I use, and I go out. I have a relationship with these farmers, which is one of my favorite things. When I go out there, of course, I'm picking up some meat, and as well for me and my family. We come back and it's a good 2-3 day process when I'm doing it, 'cause I'm doing large vats at a time to render this down. It's definitely a labor of love. I've learned a lot about the rendering process, and I have access to a few restaurants after hours at this point now, and using their equipment to help speed along the process. But I really love that aspect of this because it's creating the raw ingredient as well as, the products themselves. So I really appreciate both ends of it. And it's been a learning process for that along the way too. I've definitely had to experiment and find what works best to get the cleanest, purest tallow that I can possible for these products. So like I said, I love it. I love going out and talking to the farmers, and I bring, my daughters out there, and we usually have a great time. We have tons of great pictures of us with all the animals out there, and then we bring it back, and they do help in the process along the way as far as some of the products go also. And I really enjoy that too, spending extra time with them and teaching them some things, that hopefully they can take into life with them as well. So.
That's so great. I love that part of this. And yeah, I just want to let people know that, we're doing this small batch. Hopefully we can do this for a while. I mean, we already sold out of our first batch, but hopefully we don't get too big where you can't handle it all anymore. But
that'd be a great problem to have. I'd figure a way out to do it. So everybody keep supporting us. Let's do it.
We'll figure it out, and we're supporting the local farms. We're supporting you and your daughters, and we're making a really quality product with the best ingredients possible. And it's seriously the only products I use. I don't use any other things on my body, and they are fantastic. And everyone I've given it to has loved it. Yeah, thanks for doing this with me.
Absolutely, my pleasure, Brian. I really appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to continue making new products and the best stuff that we can, get it out there for everybody.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Just check out nosetotale.org. We got a new site. You can get all the products there, get the hats, the grass-fed meat, the seasoning blends, and the beef tallow skincare products. See you next week. All right. Thanks for listening, everyone. Go to nosetotale.org to get all the products we talked about today. I really believe in them. I have great people making them. They're experts in their fields. I really couldn't do better with these people, and you've heard it all firsthand. I'm so glad I don't have to have sponsors on the show, so I can just feature things I believe in that I partner with great people to make. So, nosetotale.org. Share this podcast with a friend. Give it a review on iTunes. All our other stuff is on sapien.org. See you next week.